Okay. So this is Aunt June, my oldest aunt. So, I'm sorry? Well, I'm not sure how to start this, so I guess yeah, so.
It's the truth. I am.
December 22nd. There we go.
Oh yeah.
2018. It's not 1977.
Yeah. So what would you consider your oldest memory to be?
The oldest memory I have is when we lived up here in the house in the Forks of the Road.
So I always thought you guys grew up next door. So you guys lived somewhere else beforehand?
We lived in the big house. We lived there when Betty was born.
Oh, okay.
That's where we lived. And then, and I played with a little girl named Betty Ray Ford. And they own that big brick house across the street, but nobody lives in that. And I remember being there. And then we lived in Mom and Daddy's house, where Juanita lives.
Yeah.
And the two front rooms, Aunt Marie and Uncle Shelton lived in there, and we lived in the back. And we were the first people in Guilford County to have indoor plumbing and all that.
Wow.
So, and I remember a little bit living at Grandma Hodgins over there.
Yeah, we actually just drove by there just because I haven't been over there forever.
Now Jimmy lives in the house that was the farmhouse.
Yeah.
The tenants lived.
Oh yeah, that's what we drove by over there.
Yeah.
On the other side of the highway.
And Jennifer, their daughter, lives in Grandma's house.
Okay.
She lives there. I think it's Jennifer. One of his daughters does. That lives in Grandma's house. And I remember walking to school all my life. 12 years I walked to school. I went to Sumner for 12 years, and we lived. Mom and Daddy bought this house that Juanita lives in the year I started school.
Wow.
That was in 48. And we walked to school. And one thing, they really, really preached, you don't get in strange cars and all that. And I remember Benny Ree Ford and I played together all the time because we went to school together. And it was raining and cold, and her daddy came along one day and tried to get me to ride to school, and I wouldn't get in his car. I said, my mom and dad do not let me get in strange people's cars. But he wasn't strange, but to me, he was her daddy, and she was in there, but I wouldn't go to One memory I have is the one time and only time in my whole life that I ever skipped school was me and Jackie Fields. I don't know if you ever heard of Jackie Fields.
The name sounds familiar.
Okay, it was Uncle Shelton's niece too. And she and I were out hiding. I don't know why we skipped school, but Aunt Irene saw us, and she went home and told Mama. And that was the night they had we had a gymnasium, and that was the first time we'd ever had one, and they were dedicating it that night. And because I didn't skip school, I didn't get to go. And I always remember that. And I was upset because Jackie got to go and I didn't. So
I remember Grandpa telling me that he had one of the first cars around here, and he used to have to chain lock it up around a tree or something like that. So I don't know how much truth to that there is.
See, I don't remember that, but I mean it might be.
So how old were you when Betty was born?
I was 3.
You was 3?
There's 3 years between me and Betty, and there's 3 years between Betty and Juanita. And I was 14 when Violet was born.
Okay. Yeah, I knew she was the late one of the bunch.
Yeah.
So I've got a picture of.
Mama was 40 when Violet was born.
I was about to say, I've got a picture of Grandpa holding Mom, and it says, surprise 40 birthday present or something like that,
Yeah.
So
They didn't. And back then, nowadays, people go and do it, all that kind of stuff. They didn't anything bother them. Mama would not go out of the house.
Wow.
When she was pregnant, she didn't want anybody to know she was pregnant. She would not go in the house. And when she was 5 months pregnant with Violet, her water broke.
Ooh.
And she had to go to the hospital. And they told her because that, that she didn't have any fluid anymore, that Violet wouldn't make it. But it formed back, and she carried Violet full time.
Wow.
Wow.
After that, she was so afraid she was going to lose Violet that she went everywhere and did everything after that. She didn't care who knew she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Puts it in perspective.
Wow. That does.
Yeah. My mom was always talking about that she had the same, or her mother had her when she was, I think, 38-ish, and again, a surprise, but she had the same experience where her mother was so embarrassed.
Back
being
then,
pregnant.
you didn't have babies at 40 and 30 years now. And now I'm at the hospital, and so I see all these older women coming in and having these
Yeah.
babies.
We have some friends that, early 40s that just had their first child,
But when you don't start until you're, 30, 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get into nursing? Well, I mean,
Grandpa Davis, Mama's daddy, wanted me to be a nurse. Why, I don't know. He always wanted it. And he told me, see, when I was little, Mama and Daddy would carry me to Grandma's and Grandpa's but when they went to work. And they kept me, and then they sent us to school, because they were right there at the school. And so he wanted me to be a nurse. Why, I don't know. And he told me that if I'd go to nursing school, he would pay for it.
oh wow, that was nice.
But he didn't have to, because back then you didn't have to. It didn't cost anything to go to nursing school.
Really?
I went to what is now GTCC, which is a college, but it was then Porticone Hospital. And we went to school. You didn't live on campus, you lived at home. And then you went 5 days a week, and the hospital furnished your uniforms, and they paid you $15 a week to go to school for gas and stuff.
Wow. That's amazing.
But that's why he wanted me to be a nurse. And I don't remember why, but that was the reason that I became a nurse, was because of him.
Yeah. So how many years did you actually do that nursing?
Just how many years?
I mean, you did that your whole career.
I graduated nursing in 62, 64. I can't even remember anymore.
So, and what year did you retire?
I retired. I've been 10 years ago. This
Okay,
year.
so 08.
And I had been at that job at the office for 36 years.
That's incredible.
I had done private duty before. I had done nursing home before, but I had been at the office where I retired from 36 years.
So I know you lived in Juneau for a while.
No, we lived in Fairbanks.
Oh, it was Fairbanks.
We lived in
Okay.
Fairbanks. He was stationed at Fort Wainwright.
Okay, so it was Tommy that how you ended up there.
The what?
So it was your first husband is why you ended up in Alaska.
Hey,
So I'm interviewing Aunt June. If you have any questions for her,
Oh, what are you interviewing for?
just asking her questions about her life. I think it'd be.
so when I'm gone, y'all will remember what I
That's a good idea.
So
Yeah, I love those stories.
did. We used to wish we'd ask Mama things, you remember?
Yeah, hell yeah.
well, you've already seen these. I was showing Aunt June those grandma and grandpa on their wedding day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, I try to colorize it.
Oh yeah.
So how long were you up there for?
Does that
18
not
months.
look like Mary?
18 months.
Does Grandma not look like Mary in the picture? She really does. I don't see how y'all don't see it.
I can see it.
I can't.
You don't see it.
So did you work while you were up there, or?
That looks just
Yeah,
like
I worked in a laundry.
you.
Really?
In
Well,
Alaska?
let me tell you about my going to Alaska.
Okay.
We had only been married. We had only been married for 2 weeks when Tommy
Wow.
went to Alaska, and so I got a car, and one of Tommy's aunts and a friend, we decided we would drive to Alaska.
I've heard the story.
So we did. We drove to Alaska. When we got 100 miles from Fairbanks, they stopped us and wouldn't let us go any farther because they'd had a flood and Fairbanks was underwater.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to stay at an army base for 10 days.
Did you know if Tommy was okay then?
He did. He talked to me one day, and then I didn't talk to him anymore. The Red Cross wouldn't even tell him. But his aunt and our friend were supposed to fly out of Fairbanks. Well, they couldn't fly out of Fairbanks. So where we were staying, we went across the street, and these oil tankers, these great big tractor trailer oil tankers, come through from Fairbanks going to Anchorage. They got in one of those and rode that the 500 miles to Anchorage and flew out of Anchorage and left me up there by myself. When they finally let me in, he had rented us an apartment, and we had an apartment on the 3rd floor, and they had water lines where the water had been 5 feet on the 2nd floor.
What do you want? $10 gifts.
In there by the bed on the floor. $10 gifts or dirty sound? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So, and so I went there and I stayed there 18 months, and then we came home together. He got discharged.
Oh, why did he get discharged?
Well, it was time for his time with us,
Oh,
and he didn't want to stay in.
okay.
We talked about it, and since he died so early, I'm glad that I wasn't out there by myself.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
probably
I couldn't
he might have
imagine.
not died, but if
Yeah.
because he was on a motorcycle, but we liked it up there.
I would love to go up there and just visit. I mean,
Well, me and Juanita went a couple years ago,
Yeah.
about 3 years ago.
so was it anything like you remembered it?
No, nothing. When I lived there, it was kind of like Summerfield. You know what Summerfield
Yeah.
looks like? It was a little bitty town like Summerfield. There was a bar on every corner. There was no big stores or anything. We were militaries, and we lived off base. They didn't have room for us on base. We lived in an apartment off base. Then I could go to the commissary and buy my groceries, and everything came from there. Now when me and Juanita went back, they have Walmarts and Kmarts, and it's a big place.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, there's Walmarts are everywhere now.
yeah, I mean it was different.
So how did you meet Tommy?
This guy I was dating was a friend of his, and see, Tommy was 7 years younger than I was.
I did not know that.
So Tommy was 7 years younger than I was. And he decided, this was his doing. He wanted to date me and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, we just did.
So any hesitations going out with a younger man?
And then now Marilyn was 10 years older than me.
Yeah, your second husband.
Yeah. So,
So you met him at church, wasn't it, Merle?
no, Marilyn was my patient.
Oh, he was your patient. I did not realize that. I thought
He was my patient.
Okay.
And he would come to the office, and he had some medical problems, and he had to have some tests at the hospital. And he told Dr. Weiner he would not go to the hospital and do them unless I would go over there and hold his hand. He tried for a long time to get me to date him, and finally one day I dated him on a Sunday afternoon, and I went back to the office the next morning, and I went in Dr. Weiner's office, and I said, Dr. Weiner, I went out with him, we had a good time, but I'm never going again. So, you never know.
Yeah. Well, then you ended up marrying him.
Yep, I ended up marrying him.
So, do you have any? I'm trying to. Let's see. So, did you have a big wedding with Tommy?
No, we got married in the parsonage up here that they tore down at the church at 1 o'clock in the morning.
They tore it down. Oh, you got married at 1 o'clock in the morning.
You went to the preacher at 1 o'clock in the morning?
My mama and Betty Morning and Violet all went. Daddy wouldn't go. He said he wasn't going anywhere like that in the middle of the night. and Tommy's mama and sister came. But see, Tommy's mama and them wouldn't have anything to do with me then back because I was an old lady and I was still their baby.
So I think you're outside, but she was saying that she was 7 years older than Tommy.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
So
why did you do it at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Well, Tommy had been to Vietnam, and he came home, and he was going to Alaska, and he had to go first and get us a place to live, and then I was driving up there, and so we went to the preacher's, and we were supposed to get married at 12 o'clock. Mama put flowers. Mama cried. Mama went to the preacher's house and she cried and she said, "Everybody's gonna think you're pregnant." The preacher told her, he says, "Well, if she is, it's the quickest ever because he's only been home 2 weeks." And so we wanted to go on a honeymoon, and we went on a honeymoon, and then he left and went up there, and then I waited about 2 weeks. He got us an apartment. Like I say, the apartment was on the 3rd floor, so we had, when I got up there, we had an apartment that we could live in, but we didn't have any electricity, and we couldn't cook. They would come by and buy rations, bring us rations to eat, you know. But I went to the commissary there at Fort Greeley, which is in Canada, and at the base where they put me up for all those weeks, and bought groceries. So I took stuff with me too when I went. But people up there, you need to go. People up there, they're better than they used to be. But like now, when we were there, we got Christmas movies and stuff like on the Hallmark now in February. And after they had the flood, everybody was real excited because they were going to get a TV station colored, and they never had a colored TV station before, and everybody kept saying, you know, we're getting a colored TV station, and I'd say, well, do you have a color TV? Well, no. It's just, you know, they just thought it was just going to, because they got a station, everything was going to be colored.
Here, Joe, I'll fill in for you.
So, do you have any kind of
We
memories
got
of,
stuff in yonder to eat if y'all want it.
Here,
Yeah, me and Linda kind of did these.
like your first meeting, your first time you met Biddy after she was born? I mean, how was it, you know, becoming a sister for the first time? Do you remember? Or were
No,
you,
I don't remember that.
so, I mean, you were 3, so.
That was 3.
So do you remember any of the girls being born?
Yeah, I remember Violet being born.
Okay.
Because I was born on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And Mama went to the hospital, and Daddy came home, and we said, what did she have? What did she have? Because then you didn't know, you know.
Yeah.
And he said, what does she always have?
That was back before they could tell you, before the baby was born, what the birth
Yeah.
gender was going to be.
And they let us go see her. And they let us go see her because back then, you know, now everybody can come, and I wish they couldn't, but anybody can come now and see anybody. But now they let us go Christmas Day because it was Christmas Day and our mom was in the hospital. And Daddy had to try to do Santa Claus. You know.
Yeah.
And he didn't know where nothing was. You know, he just couldn't.
So were you all born in the hospital, or was anybody born?
Uh-huh. I was born on the 2nd day of April, and it snowed that day.
How's a late snow?
It snowed that day.